Hello everyone, I'm Cemal Yiğit. Welcome to News in Focus, Nigeria. Today I'm joined with a very prolific journalist and editor. His name is SULEIMAN UBAGAYA. He is managing editor of New Telegraph newspaper. He is recently re-elected as Vice President of Nigerian's Guild of Editors. Welcome, Mr. Suleiman.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine.
Very good to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
Sir, could you please briefly introduce yourself and tell us the post that you hold earlier?
Well, my first appointment as editor was 16 years ago, in 1999. I was made editor of a subscription-based magazine based in Kano called Concern Magazine. Mm-hmm. And from then, over the years, I held so many senior editorial positions. The last one being editor daily of Leadership newspaper, and the current one being managing editor of New Telegraph. In between the time, I also became special advisor to the governor of Kano State, who is now Minister of Education, Malam Ibrahim Shekaro. Mm-hmm. I was his special advisor on special duties for 4 years, up to 2011 when he relinquishes the post after his second term of office.
And now you are the Vice President of...
Yeah, I'm the Vice President of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. You know, it's an election-based position. Okay. I won, you know, it's tenure-based, two-year tenure-based. I first of all won election in March 2013. Mm-hmm. Ran it for 2 years up to 2015. Then about 2 weeks ago we had another election, another convention in Lagos. I was re-elected to the same position to run for 2 years up to 2017.
Is it the top entity of editors in Nigeria?
Yeah, it is the highest body for all not just practicing journalists in Nigeria. And let me also clearly say that it is not just meant for journalists. It mm-hmm. is meant for journalists that have attained the highest positions, that is editors. When you become an editor, you have attained the highest position in journalism. So it is only aimed at people who have held positions of editors for at least 3 years. It is the highest.
Okay. How many members do you have?
Presently, we have, because we don't limit it to serving editors. Okay. You know, once you are an editor, you can become a member. You can continue to become a member of the guild. Presently, we have 506 members.
How is the guild when it comes to being influential on making the government take some decisions? Are you people united?
Yeah, Nigerian journalists are very much united. You know, and the Nigerian Guild of Editors is probably one of the most influential bodies that we have in Nigeria. You know, it molds opinion because editors mold opinions. And this is the umbrella body for all editors in Nigeria. Editors in Nigeria don't have any other body apart from the Nigerian Guild of Editors, so we are very much united.
Mr. Suleiman, yes. Individuals that I have spoken earlier in Nigeria, they all tell me that journalists played a huge role on the journey to democratize Nigeria. Yeah. How is that possible, and how significant role the journalists played in Nigeria, especially like till 1999 when you became, let's say, fully democratized by beginning the policies of different parties?
Yeah, the history of Nigerian journalism or Nigerian media struggle for enthronement of democracy and even independence dates back to several years ago. For example, the Nigerian Guild of Editors has been in existence for over 50 years. You'll be surprised, I'm sure to hear that. And especially from 1999 to date, first of all, we ensured smooth handover of power from the military to civilians in 1999. You know, a military government handed over to democratically elected government in 1999. So Nigerian media or Nigerian journalists in another way played a very significant role, you know, by ensuring through their writings, their reviews, and news and in the electronic media, applying all sorts of pressure to the government in power to ensure that democracy was enthroned. And, you know, as you very well know, we've been enjoying democracy for 16 uninterrupted years now, and it has come to stay, courtesy of Nigerian journalists. A lot of sacrifices were made. You know, some have even lost their lives. But at least we are here, Nigerians, about 180 million people are enjoying democracy, courtesy largely of the struggle of Nigerian journalists. Sure. So it's evolving and it's getting stronger.
So since journalists are free to speak, they are free to exercise their freedom of press and expression, it reflects to citizens too? Does it play that role also?
Yeah, in many ways it is, because you see, whenever any government tries to, you know, interfere with free speech, Nigerian journalists ensure the right thing is done. You know, we don't give any government a chance to interfere with free speech, be it among the citizens, be it among journalists. We do that through all sorts of means. You know, if it is a newspaper, through reviews, through editorials, through articles, through news reportage, and so many other means. You know, if it is the same thing also with the electronic and online media. You know, we are very active and persuasive, and we don't relent until we achieve our goals.
So isn't that almost saying like you are one strong opposition all the time for any type of government?
Yeah, honestly, we are. We hardly align with any government in power. If it does the right thing, of course, we support it. If it doesn't, then we object to what it does, and we ensure the right thing is done.
So what happens if you feel oppressed or suppressed and someone is trying to corner you with the freedom of expression or press? What are the measures you might take, or you did take in the history?
Yeah, so many measures. Like I said, apart from persuasive means through our writings, you know, especially editorials and reportage, we can also stage protests, you know, peaceful protests to ensure such a person is freed. You know, we just can't allow you because you are the president or a governor or a senator or whatever political position you hold, you know, to just interfere with free press. We don't allow that. We do whatever it takes to ensure continuous peaceful flow of free press in Nigeria.
And don't you think it's also something the politicians also got used to, so that they cannot be harsh on the editors or journalists in Nigeria, because they know you people are united, number one. Number two, if they criticize, they will be really backfired, even worse than it is.
Yeah, of course, it's in the interest of politicians to side with journalists. You know, recently we made the incoming government of General Muhammadu Buhari understand that it is better, especially in its fight against corruption. You know, they made it a very cardinal campaign issue that they are going to seriously fight corruption in Nigeria. So we made them understand that for them to do it effectively, they need to partner with the media. You know, so, and if they partner with the media, definitely we are going to help them achieve their goals faster than they will ever think.
I personally think that diversity and so many people descent in Nigeria could be a challenge when it comes to journalists doing their write-up and coming up with a survey or doing their assessments or anything, because it's a really diverse country, religion-wise and traditional-wise and any other thing you could think of. So how is Nigerian journalists addressing to that problem when it comes to diversity and dissent?
Yeah, honestly, we have a code of ethics guiding us as journalists practicing in Nigeria. But above that, honestly, as you rightly observe, issues of diversity have constituted a very major clock in the wheel of progress, you know, in Nigerian journalism. There were situations where some newspapers take sides. But the good thing about it is, if any paper does that, you know, It gets censored not just by the regulatory authorities, but by the readers themselves. Because readers will simply stop buying the paper. And if the managers see that, it's like they are being warned to sit up, to adjust, to make sure those things that are bad are being put right. So in that way, honestly, diversity has not been a problem. We have turned it an advantage in so many ways. You understand? Issues of religion, of course, at times come into play. If maybe a Muslim reporter is covering an activity that affects Christians and Muslims, he is almost certainly going to take sides with maybe people of his faith. The same applies with the Christian reporters. But then, like I said, the overall thing is the readers are not stupid. They know what is right. If you serve them what is right, they continue patronizing you. If you serve them what is wrong, they know it. They are not stupid. They can't just put their money to buy a newspaper when they don't know what they are doing. They know what they are doing. So you get to know whether what you are doing is right or wrong by the patronage you get from the readers.
So like Nigerian newspaper readers are active readers. They are not just passive consumers.
No, they are not passive consumers.
They know what they want, and you have to shape your information according to their demands.
Definitely, yes, definitely. And virtually all newspapers in Nigeria offer a platform for their readers to air their opinions. Right of reply is guaranteed. If, for example, an article or a story is published and you want to disagree with it, you have a right to reply. And the newspaper is obliged to publish your own side of the story. And also, every day we have an online platform. Virtually all the newspapers have this online platform through which you can respond even by your phone. To any story. You can maybe air your views, say, okay, I agree with this, or I disagree with this, or shed more light to and any issue, whether news, whether article, whatever that was published in a newspaper. So that helps in, shaping the contents of each newspaper.
Nigeria is a wide country with 180 million people. Population is also large. So is it a challenge for newspapers to get the papers published and distribute and circulate them?
Yeah, it is a challenge, honestly, because largely we have poor infrastructure. But then with the advent of technology, things have been made easier. Many of the newspapers have printing presses in many parts of the country. Some as many as 3, some have up to 4 printing presses. Some in Lagos, which is in the southwestern part of the country, some in Kano, which is in the northwestern part of the country, some in Maiduguri, which is in the southeastern part of the country, then in Enugu or Aba, which is in the southeastern part of the country. So this reflects the 4 major geopolitical zones, even though we have 6. That makes it easier for newspapers to print simultaneously across Nigeria, and it's the same content, only that the printing is done at various places, but simultaneously. In terms of distribution, it has remained a challenge because air transportation is not at its best in Nigeria. And honestly speaking, so many places don't have airports. We transport by road more often than not. And this poses a lot of challenges. Doing that on an everyday basis, it poses a lot of risks. Apart from delays and things like that, and at times they can encounter criminals on the way, So these are challenges that have remained with us, but which we believe in the course of time are going to be surmounted.
As far as I know, there are many nationwide spread newspapers. But among these papers, some of them are addressing to like a group of people in some territories, some part of country, or how is it taken here in Nigeria?
Well, like in the United States, they have maybe state-based, what I may call state-based newspapers, like Washington Post, New York Times, but then there are national newspapers. only that their bases are certain areas, like the New York Times, which has its base in New York. In Nigeria too, we used to have what is called legacy, but an axis of the media.
Okay.
About 90% of Nigerian newspapers were operating from that axis. But over the years, especially in the last 15 years or thereabouts, we have stronger presence of the media in the north, in the northern parts of the country. Abuja is being seen as part of the north. Presently, we have so many newspapers operating in Abuja. We have at least 4 major ones. These papers, any paper that is being published in Abuja is largely seen as a northern newspaper.
I see.
But it reflects the views of the country. Only that if you are operating from a part of a country, you are expected to probably reflect more views of that part of the country. So in that wise, you have papers like Daily Trust being seen as largely a northern newspaper reflecting the interests of the north. You know, so if you are living in the south and you want to get proper perspectives of northerners, you are maybe obliged to buy Daily Trust, to buy Leadership, to buy People's Daily or Blueprint, and a few other newspapers like them that are coming up. Also, if you are living in the north and you want to get the southern perspective, you buy This Day, you buy Punch, Nation, Sun, and so many, New Telegraph that I represent, and so many other newspapers that are in existence there. But largely, we agree on one thing. That is, on democracy we stand. On free press we stand. There is no compromise about this. Okay. If any person comes, whether he's the president, whatever position he holds, and thinks he's going to muzzle the press, I am telling you he's not going to succeed.
This is your red line.
Yeah, we really have drawn a red line which nobody can cross. We have agreed on this.
Wonderful.
Even if we are going to maybe reflect regional views on these issues, you know, pre-economy, free press, democracy, we have agreed, and there is no compromise.
Though all these editors are coming from different background, maybe with different ideology, different religions, maybe traditions and customs, but you are united on the listed things that you just mentioned.
Yeah. We are united.
Democracy, you can compromise.
We can compromise.
Wonderful.
On that. Yes.
There is one thing it's hard for me to understand in Nigeria.
Okay.
Newspapers are extremely expensive for individuals to buy. Why is it so, and any solutions for that?
Well,
compared
basically,
to other countries, Mr. Suleiman, seriously, you are paying fortunes every day.
You're right. I remember the first time I went to Turkey in 2012, I realized that Zaman newspaper sells for, I think the equivalence about 20, 30 naira.
Right.
You know, at a time when Nigerian newspapers were still selling for 150 naira,
right.
About $1 at the time.
Oh, yeah, the same. It's $1.
Almost $1 at that time.
So there is stability.
You know,
in that sense.
exactly. So honestly, it's very costly, as we rightly said. But then it has more to do with the cost of production. Here, we hardly have regular power supply, so you have to augment with generators, and the cost of diesel. You know, even though Nigeria is an oil-producing country, unfortunately, we don't produce those things. Our refineries don't produce. They only operate skeletally, so to say. So we largely import fuel, and that includes diesel, kerosene, petrol, and other derivatives. You know, newsprint also, even though we used to have a newsprint manufacturing company, but I don't think it exists anymore. So cost of newsprint is prohibitive. You have to import it largely. By the time you add all these things to the cost of infrastructure, cost of distribution, and things like that, you realize the cost is really, for you to survive, you have to pass on the cost to the buyer. And that is the reason why, you know, we can sell below 150. In fact, for many newspapers, even selling at 150 is not even the best.
Covering their costs?
It doesn't cover their cost, I'm telling you.
They have to rely on advertisement, and that's why the advertisements are also very expensive.
Exactly. But you know, I wanted to say, sorry, you know, in places like Turkey, I keep giving an example with Turkey because I really studied the media environment there. You know, many newspapers hardly rely on advertisements. You know, for example, Zaman newspapers of, I think, circulates 1.2 million copies every day. By sales alone, it can, you know, it can make some slight profit and continue to operate.
Right.
You know, it can break even.
Right.
That's what. So, but in Nigeria, you can't break even by merely sales. You know, and the rate of sales has gone drastically down, largely owing to economic factors. Not everyone can afford 150 naira per newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so people rely more on online. They can access any newspaper online without having to pay a dime. You know, so we no longer have papers that circulate. We used to have Nigerian papers that were circulating almost 1 million copies several years back. But now you hardly is drastically lower than that.
One more thing. When I'm coming to my work in the morning to my office, I see these newsstands with lots of crowd and people get together and looks like they are buying papers, but when you look closer, they don't buy papers. They just go through the papers and they have their political talks with their partners and friends there, and it's a friendly atmosphere, but still you're seeing that something is going on there. What's happening there? They don't buy the papers, but they still pay some amounts. How should people see this, understand it?
I think that is what is called pre-readers association.
Okay.
But it's not really pre.
Yeah.
The vendors, I think, collect, from what I heard, they collect maybe 10 naira, 20 naira from them. You can give that money and read all the newspapers there. Right. It has become, or rather it is fast becoming a veritable means of influencing opinion, because there you have people from diverse backgrounds, you know, after reading the newspapers, coming to debate the issues they read in the newspapers. Yes, yes. So if you really want to influence an opinion, you can maybe plant a few people there that can maybe influence the tone of discussion or the tone of debate taking place there. So they are pre-readers, mostly they are people by the less privileged members of the society who cannot afford to buy 1 or 2 or more newspapers at 150 naira each, almost $1 each, you know. But by giving maybe a fraction of that amount, they have access to all the newspapers. We allow it because it increases knowledge, you know, and we are aware of the fact that not all Nigerians can really afford our newspapers. Of course, it's something we don't want, but then it's something we can hardly help. And basically, we are here to help the society. Profit is not just the motive. You know, to break even and to continue operating is what we aspire. So that's why we don't frown at what you saw, what you see on daily basis, like the pre-readers and things like that.
Then we can say a sold paper is not read only with one person.
Yeah.
Many others also read the paper.
Many others read the papers. But then I think what the vendors do is to maybe bring maybe 2 or 3 copies of each newspaper. It's not just all the newspapers on display that anyone can pick. Because if it is stained, for example,
of course.
Not everybody will buy. So they will take maybe, if they are taking, for example, leadership, they pick 2 or 3 copies, make them available to the pre-readers. Then another newspaper, the same thing.
There is another thing about the newspapers in Nigeria, bothers me actually.
Okay.
This Boko Haram issue. When anything happens related to Boko Haram, you see the headlines mentioning about it, numbers, everything is so big size, and the pictures are there after explosions and things. Yes, one may think that it is right to show this to people as a news, that people should know, I understand. But don't you think by doing so helped Boko Haram to be more publicized? And maybe this was the thing that they wanted, and next day they get it on press.
You are very right, my brother. Let me take you still back to my first trip to Turkey in 2012. We went with about 10 other editors of leading newspapers in Nigeria. I remember we visited the Journalists and Writers Foundation. We had a session with them in Istanbul. There, I think the then president, told us that one of the means they used to defeat PKK, you know, in Turkey, is to give a blackout to their terrorist activities. If they engage in anything, they hardly give it prominence. They bury it deep inside the newspaper.
Right.
Terrorists all over the world want to be celebrated, you know. So if you put their activities on page 1 of your newspaper or on the early pages of your newspaper, you are in an indirect way helping them, honestly speaking. I think it's a challenge the Nigerian Guild of Editors and the Nigerian Union of Journalists has to take. It's an issue we really need to address. We shouldn't be doing it, honestly speaking, because you are emboldening them. Whenever they see their stories, you know, of their dastardly acts on page 1 of very leading newspapers, it encourages them to do more. So really, it's not a development we should welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jamal.
Nigeria is one free country when it comes to journalism. This is how I describe Nigeria. If a columnist slaps the president of its country on one cheek, the next day the president himself turns other cheek to that columnist. This is how Nigeria is, and they definitely enjoy the way it is. Thank you for watching. See you on the next edition.
Thank you.